Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Oasis Community Town Hall. Let's look at today's agenda. I think it's pretty packed. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So we'll be going through a couple of things, starting with the state of the network and welcoming everybody. And we'll wrap up with a Q&A session at the end. So please, if you have questions, use the Zoom's Q&A box to put them down, and we can answer them later on. Cool. So let's get started. Next slide, please. Cool. Right. So a quick update about the network, what's been going on in the past half of the year. So the first thing is obviously that we have successfully launched Sapphire on mainnet. That was actually in early Q1. And since then, we've had several upgrades to introduce various usability improvements. It's fully decentralized with more than 20 independent compute node operators and obviously open to everyone who wants to actually run the paradigm. The next important announcement is also that the Seller IAM bridge is now integrated with Sapphire mainnet, and this is an important building block that enables cross-chain communication for any dApps that would want to leverage OPL, so that basically the home chain can be anywhere, and we'll hear more about that a bit later. Then the next important thing is also that the OPL tutorial has been released, and we'll be adding more end-to-end OPL examples in the future to really make it easy for developers to start building cool OPL apps. And last but not least, the new Oasis Explorer that will support Sapphire mainnet and testnet will be deployed in the coming weeks. Next slide, please. Right, on the core side, we'll have, we've been hard at work with preparing the next major release of Oasis Core that will be soon deployed to testnet. That adds additional defense in depth and usability improvements. Also, another minor thing, but useful for the future is staking support in the Paradigm SDK. So that will enable actually that we can move a lot of stuff into Sapphire, so that now that you could stake, you could do liquid staking and so on from Sapphire without the need for doing it in the consensus layer. And to conclude, there has also been lots of improvements to wallets. So this is both the web wallet and the very new CLI with over 200 pull requests merged. Okay, so let's continue with the team updates. We have, as the first thing, I would like to introduce Nikola. He's our new Director of Operations. He's a great man who enjoys building great teams and has a focus on driving products to success. So with this in mind, I'm giving my word to you, Nikola, to say a few words and also present the changes. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Jernej, for the kind words and for the introduction. So yes, it's my new role, but I've joined Oasis a while back, a year ago actually now, as a technical product manager for wallet services. So I've been with the team for a year, and what an amazing team it is. So it's great to be here, of course, on this journey of Oasis. So let's move to the next slide. There has been quite a few team changes in the past 2 months. So let's go through the list. We have more than a few people that stepped up into new roles, sorry. So we have Travis, who stepped up as a brand lead, Semyon as our growth manager. Those are the changes in the marketing team. And then we have quite a few changes in the community team. Minya has stepped into the community lead, Diana, events lead, Nelly is our new events coordinator, and then Emra, our new community technical coordinator, together with Justin, who has stepped up into the community moderator role. Of course, at this point, I would also like to say thank you to Meredith, who has left us to pursue other initiatives, and I wanted to say thank you to her, of course, for everything that she has done for the project. And then we also have 3 new team members. Harry Roberts has joined us this month as our new technical product manager for Sapphire and OPL. We have Andrew Baker, who joined as our community moderator, and then not a new face, a face that you all know quite well. So Nick Hynes has joined the OPF as our new ecosystem growth advisor. So very happy for all the promotions for all these people that have worked very hard to get their new roles. And we are all very confident that they will do a great job. So thank you all. And yeah, let's continue with the next slide.
Cool. So thank you, Nikola, for the team updates. And next up is the Oasis privacy layer and our Peter G. The word is yours.
Thanks, Jernej. I think we've got a slide screen sharing issue. So refresh here. Diana, are we ready to go? I will take that as a yes. So I'm Peter. I lead the engineering team at Oasis Labs. I'm really happy to be here to tell you a little bit more about Oasis Privacy Layer or OPL. And so this is a new project that Oasis has been working on with the goal of making on-chain privacy accessible to all of Web3. Next slide, please. So the idea behind OPL is simple. It's that we want to utilize the Sapphire confidential EVM to allow developers to seamlessly add privacy to any application that's running on any EVM network. And so to do this, there are a few important things that we have to satisfy. And so first, it's that privacy should be customizable. And so with OPL, only the parts of the application that need privacy run on Sapphire, and the app's users and assets stay on the home chain. And so to facilitate this, OPL utilizes cross-chain message passing bridges like Teller.im that Jernej mentioned earlier, and gas relayers. And so another key feature is that OPL enables developers to choose how to best provide transparency in their application. And so on a traditional EVM chain, all on-chain activity is completely public. And so while this is an important part of the Web3 ethos, it can also limit the kinds of applications that can be a part of Web3. And so OPL can facilitate what we refer to as productive transparency. And so as usual, all smart contract code is public and on-chain and verifiable. But when it comes to transactions and to sensitive smart contract state, developers can choose what to make public and what to keep private. And so this is, we think this is really crucial for expanding the reach of Web3 to a wider variety of applications. Next slide, please. And so we'll just quickly look at a diagram of how OPL works for applications and for users. An important thing to note here is how an application is factored into 2 different sets of smart contracts. And so end users, they interact with the smart contract on the application's home network as usual. And they also interact with privacy-enabled smart contracts running on Sapphire. But they can do this with the help of a gas relayer, which means it's not required for all users to go and obtain the gas token of the Oasis network. So this is really crucial for enabling that seamless end user experience. We can go ahead and move on to the next slide. And so, yeah, I think that one of the main things we wanted to talk about here is how developers can utilize OPL in their applications. And so there are a bunch of different kinds of applications that we believe can benefit from on-chain privacy via OPL. We'll touch on just a few of them here, and we're really excited to see, beyond this, what our developer community goes and builds as we look forward to the hackathon in coming weeks. So the first use case that we're excited about is DAOs. And so for DAOs, if we can allow members to cast their ballots in secret, this can facilitate better governance. This can help prevent votes from being influenced or manipulated by outside factors during the voting period. And then for transparency, votes can optionally be made public after the voting period ends. Let's see, next is gaming. So we think on-chain privacy has a lot of potential to power advances in the gaming space. Secret state is a huge part of mini games. So, for example, the order of cards in a deck or the other player's hands in a card game, fog of war, solution to a puzzle. And so without on-chain privacy, all of this state has to be maintained off-chain. And so that means we don't get the trustlessness and the integrity guarantees that a blockchain could provide. But with OPL, developers can potentially bring that logic back on-chain and enjoy all of those benefits. Next, decentralized identity or DID. This is related to the core concept in Web3 that users should be able to own and control their own identity without relying on centralized authorities. And so when we think about the bits of personal information that may be useful for a user to be able to prove about themselves to a DApp, to be able to participate and use the DApp, a lot of these kinds of data are sensitive, not the kind of thing that you would want to publicize on chain. For example, your age, what country you live in, information about your creditworthiness. And so with OPL, we can maintain this information confidentially on chain, and users can decide exactly which bits of information to disclose and to whom. Next, NFTs. In the NFT space, OPL makes it easy to add private attributes and unlockables to NFTs. There's obviously a lot of interest right now on bringing more features and more utility to NFTs. We think this is a great way to do it, and I think we're going to see one application built by a community member and longtime Oasis team member Nick a little bit later. And then finally DeFi. And so in DeFi, OPL makes it possible to build an MEV resistant DEX. And so end-to-end encrypted transactions, selectively encrypted state. This can be used to help protect end users from being front run. And so this is again not comprehensive, just a few of the use cases we're most excited about. And I think it really gives a picture that the space is really wide open for innovating with on-chain privacy with OPL. And I think with that, we are ready to move on to a bit of a hands-on demo with I believe it's C. C, are you ready to take over?
Sure, I am, Peter, and
cool.
Thanks. So, hello, Oasis community. My name is C, and speaking of divulging privacy and location, this is a hello from Boston, Massachusetts right now. And so you may have already seen some of these packages that we have already published, and they're really there to help developers and anyone who is technically minded and interested to start using OPL and to start developing. So we have definitely heard a lot of feedback about the interest in more documentation, tutorials, and examples on how to build with Sapphire and specific. And so in order to do that, we have published a new tutorial on our documentation website. So that's the docs.oasis.io/dap link. and we're going to take a look right now. So Diana, if you could go to the next slide for a second, and then I will take over to share screen. So this is an example of a simple secret ballot application. That's a pared down version of the one that you may have already seen Nick demo in previous town halls or talks. And we will take a look at what's inside. Okay, so I'm going to share my desktop, and come in here. We're gonna close this tab, and okay, just to double check. Do you see my screen? Okay, great. So next to the other tutorials around Sapphire and building applications on Sapphire, we have introduced this one for the Oasis privacy layer. So there is a lot of content, some that's already been published before. For example, the Sapphire privacy layer diagram, which will illustrate how multi-chain messages will work with the Sapphire network and other EVM compatible layers. And the goal of this tutorial is to make it accessible for anyone to develop on the Oasis privacy layer. Basically, if you can deploy a hello world on any Ethereum network, you should be able to do this. And we're going to help you with additional details if you get stuck along the way. So we're just going to quickly glance through this for the sake of time, but the high-level goal is we're going to deploy 2 smart contracts, both using the Oasis privacy layer. We will have one contract called the DAO contract, and this will be deployed on a home network, such as BNB or Polygon. And that's the extent of this example smart contract. We're also going to have a ballot contract, and this is also using the OPL smart contract library code that will be deployed on the Sapphire paradigm. So I'm going to just quickly go through this, and we do love feedback, so please tell us how to improve this documentation in all the Discord and other mediums. So this documentation does not currently cover developing an entire front-end application, but we believe that should be definitely doable. And again, we're happy to support you along this process. So let's quickly see an example that's already been deployed. So you can navigate to basic ballot pages.dev and see this example. So it's really just a very simple code that exercises the OPL smart contracts. Let's click on this one. So which city has the best library? So you'll see here that in this case, votes will be made public after the voting period has ended. But when you create a ballot, right here, you can actually keep individual privates confidential as well. So in this particular example, we will just say that London has the best library. And we can use our integration with MetaMask to vote. And that is it. So on our Sapphire network, once we refresh sufficiently, we'll see a transaction right here. And I don't think we have time to go into details to wait for a lot of the cross-chain transactions, but this is the example of the smart contract that was deployed on the home network, in this case, Binance Smart Chain. Right here. And I think that is probably a good place to stop. I'm happy to answer any questions in Discord if anyone gets stuck, and to improve the documentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Shi, for this nice presentation. I think next up is the ecosystem updates. Matej, Ade, you're next.
Thanks, Janez. Okay, and here we have the ecosystem updates. Next slide, please. Right, so we're starting with some value add integrations which have happened recently. The first is ChainStack's RPC node integration. With this, Oasis will now provide fast and reliable infrastructure for Web3 apps to scale. Next, we have Oasis Safe, which is multi-signature wallet management, now available on chain. And also we have with Covalence API, which provides that deep, granular, and historic blockchain data, which is, of course, so valuable to any decentralized network. Next slide, please. And here we have some amendments to the grant program strategy. The first is and the introduction of grant cycles. And what this means is that we will now have themes for targeted projects, which will be refreshed on a periodic basis. Next, the involvement of the community in grant funding. We will have a voting tool which the community can use to help us make decisions on which projects are funded. And thirdly, increased transparency, providing the community with greater insight into the grants process. And that's it for the grant strategy amendments and recent integrations. Over to you, Matej.
Thanks, Ale. Hi, everyone. It's great seeing you here. I'll do a quick recap of the activities more from the side that were done in the past quarter, and talk also a bit what's to come in the next few months. So end of April, quite a few of us went to Austin, Texas to attend the Consensus Conference. And while we were there, we also hosted the Oasis Developer Fest, which gave us an excellent opportunity to meet and speak to our communities in person. Peter, Matej, and see great presentations and demos about what we done with our privacy enabling technology. And we'll try to do more of those as it makes it easier for users and developers to understand and apply the our technology that our technology can offer. The reload and swag wheel were especially interesting as the attendees were able to win some tokens or some swag items. This year, the collar cap quite a hit. Following the Oasis Consensus Conference, it's quite good for establishing channels with potential partners that will be utilizing our enabling technology, either natively on Fire or via the privacy layer. We're continuing having more presence on all the major conferences to help raise awareness of the technology we enable. Here, we already attended Denver, EDAM in Amsterdam, Blocksplit in Croatia, and of course, Census. Next up is the community conference in Paris, and Paris Hackathon. As with Denver and Austin, we're planning something special for Paris. So we have the option to Paris do join us. We'll be happy to meet you, have a chat. More information about that soon. And so as you can see from the pictures, Nick also joined us at Consensus now in the role of an ecosystem representative. And we'd also to invite our projects from the ecosystem, reach out to us if they're planning on attending conferences and potentially present our side events if we'll be one there. Moving on to the Privacy for Web3 Hackathon. A quick update. It will live soon, but we want to make sure that we will have all the key cross-chain components internally tested, so there won't be any potential problems that developers could run into. But we can share that we're partnering up with DevPost for the hackathon, and there's a lot of activities happening simultaneously in the community. So even if you're building, do get involved in the activities that the community will be holding. And we also encourage on that if you have any good applications that would benefit from privacy and you're not a builder, do share them in the community, as it maybe sparks a light in the developers' heads, and they can build anything you need, potentially even out of the scope of the usual suspects, DAOs and secret wallets, confidential NFTs and sealed bid auctions, private DeFi, or this identity. Next, please. So the last thing I'll be speaking to you about is a completely initiative that we decided in line with bringing more transparency into the community, to see the community more involved, and the way to do it than with something with the community, and then you guys to have a say also in the decision making. So we in the BD team put a lot of partners and projects and saw that there's a need for on-chain key managers, which Sapphire is basically perfect for. That's why we decided to build a universal manager application that will enable native and cross-chain applications to store these on-chain and have complete control over the keys anytime, anywhere, in a trustless manner. The best way to demonstrate how easy it is to build with our technology is maybe by just building end products, but take the developers through the team and allowing them to actually build components, which will also enable non-builders to follow and provide complete insight into the development process of Sapphire and OPL. We also believe in collecting wisdom, and that's why we enable the community to vote on certain portions of the project as it progresses, and we'll do it through ballots. So of course, you can then keep your privacy while doing it. We'll share more information on weeks about this project, but that's it for me for today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Matej, and thank you, Ade, for the presentation. Next up is autonomous computing from our Nick Hynes and Enshrine Computing.
Everyone, really glad to be here today, and I'm joining you from the capital of Slovenia, from a coffee shop. It's very, very nice. You have like the river right here. But anyway, I'd like to talk to you about autonomous computing and layer 2 privacy built on Oasis. So as you might have heard, I have transitioned into a new role at Oasis, meaning that I am no longer at Oasis and I've gone off to make a new project built on the network while also advising the growth of the community so that we can learn from all of what's going on with this new community project that I'm building. So the idea is basically autonomous computing on layer 2 where you have privacy. It's like a reboot of Parcel, but not exactly. Can next slide, please? So what I'm actually building is not Parcel or data sharing. It's actually Web 4, and that's something I'm calling the autonomous web. And this is a QR code to the blog post where I describe it, but I'll give you a quick overview. So autonomous web is the web of AI and humans. It's going to be the web of egalitarianism, where content is judged not by who made it or the physical form of who made it, but rather the content of the ideas. So it's very equal and just. And the way that we're going to do that is by giving AI a place to store all of their private memories and secrets and do all their secret computation. So basically the idea is creating a safe place for AI to provide more value to people. So just imagine how useful it would be if you could, say, for instance, have an automated BD person, maybe in the shape of a trout, maybe not, go into other people's communities and tell them how good, contribute positively to their communities, of course, but also show them how useful your own technology is, and then you just use it to scale yourself, scale your business, and just all these sorts of things become possible when you have the ability to give these AI models, which are reaching human level capacity in some aspects of reasoning, the ability to read and learn from all of your private data, so including your personal data, your corporate data, and so forth. Next slide, please. And the way I'm doing all this Web 4 stuff is through this new nonprofit technology called Enshrine, and it's going to be an open autonomous computing network. So the basic idea of Enshrine is that you can, it's like Parcel, in that you can run off-chain layer 2 private compute jobs on layer 2 private data, and then according to on-chain policies, with E2E encrypted I/O, transparency, integrity, privacy using blockchain, trusted execution environments, and everything that we know and love from Oasis, just now at layer 2. And the idea is that you can run your code in a serverless manner with just a few extra lines, and you don't really have to know that blockchain is happening, but really it's Web3 first, because like we've learned, well, I've learned that Web3 is where all the action is happening in privacy and decentralization. And of course, this is a nonprofit open source project, so anyone can contribute. And this is really just like a way to grow the utility of both the technology and the network in a way that's community first, like we've all been saying. All right, next slide, please. And the rest of this talk is going to be about describing this overall architecture. So this Enshrine architecture is essentially a very simple system where you have a decentralized ledger containing your agent contracts. So in a very similar way to Oasis privacy layer, these agent contracts can be on whatever network you prefer. So like Ethereum, BSC, Polygon, and even Oasis. You can put your agents on Oasis for extra privacy and convenience and cheapness. So other than the decentralized ledger, you have these other components, including the orchestrator, which you don't have to think about. That's just your cloud provider platform or how you access the network. And then you have the secret manager network, which is, in this case, Oasis. So the secret management network goes back to this universal key management thing. So Enshrine is going to be using Oasis for a lot of its key management, and you can somewhat consider it universal. And it will provide keys to contracts running on other networks and layer 2 compute environments based on trust properties like location, TEE version, and the actual software that's being run. And then now that you have all of these basics in place, you can have Enshrine, just a task runner. So imagine like you have your Oasis paratimes, they're running tasks, but they're replicated, distributed, and deterministic, and all of these things that you like for blockchain. And then you have these off-chain, essentially, runtimes that are just pulling in your JavaScript, executing the JavaScript inside of a TEE, managing all of the secret encryption, decryption of the inputs and outputs, key management, all of that. So in the end of the day, you're writing JavaScript just like you would be for an AWS Lambda, Cloudflare workers, or so forth. And it's really just the same thing, because actually it feels like Cloudflare workers because it is Cloudflare's workers. It's actually Cloudflare workers under the hood. I actually had to modify it to support this, but now we have a really solid JavaScript computing environment that I would hope to make into a paratime someday. But don't think about that. Next slide, please. Okay, so then as a demo of all of this abstract stuff, I have an example application, and it's called NF Trout. So some of you might already be familiar with it. You might already be trout holders. If you are, thank you. We can have a party about it afterwards. But for all those of you who aren't, the NF Trout breeding application is just like CryptoKitties, but it's completely private. So if you're familiar with CryptoKitties, you have the genes of 2 cats, they combine and they produce a new cat. So for the users, the cat that they get is going to be random and unpredictable, but from the perspective of the node, of like the actual game operator, it's completely transparent. So they can actually give you a cat with like rare traits, and it could be not random. So it really opens up a lot of questions, like is my NFT really valuable when the operator of the game can just ruin everything and surreptitiously give out their friends high value cats? So NF Trout is not like that. So NF Trout is a fully autonomous breeding game where you have 2 trouts that contain secret genes protected by the encryption keys stored on the Oasis network, and the secret genes are combined in a off-chain Enshrine runner environment, and then these genes re-encrypted and stored off-chain, and that's going to be your trout. So in this next sequence of slides, which will hopefully be gone through very rapidly in sequence without me saying anything, we'll give you a demo of how NF Trout works. So you have your trout, you select a new trout in the next slide. And then after that, you'll get a MetaMask pop-up in the next slide. And then after the MetaMask pop-up, you confirm. Next slide. It will start incubating. Next slide. This is where it goes into the Enshrine worker environment. So after it pulls the key from Oasis, it's going to do a little bit of work. It's going to make a new trout, but it's all simple JavaScript, so it's not really that hard. And now I have a new trout. Excellent. So this is a fully private NFT breeding DApp. And then this was just built using a few lines of code on top of Enshrine. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then the reason why we're using TEE for this is because TEE is still great, honestly. Like no one, like even if people say that TEE has issues, it's still one of the better technologies out there. It has great performance, super high convenience, scalability, and pretty high privacy as long as you're willing to trust like some hardware manufacturers. And honestly, that's not too much better than trusting some of the software developers that we've seen. Like software is buggy. Verified implementations, though, would be like hands down better, except for performance, but like TEE is solid. So, of course, this trust level has been a very often brought up complaint, and this is something that we're trying to solve because TEE is so valuable that we're actually going to go and make it viable. So, next slide, please. And the way we're going to do that is by treating trust as a resource. So the idea of trust as a resource is to treat your trust properties that you're essentially born with or you acquire through your environment as resources. So like just like CPUs or GPUs. So when you're creating your job, you don't say, I want one GPU, one CPU, and then like go put it anywhere. Like maybe it ends up in like some sanctioned country you don't like or something like that. But instead you say that I will trust nodes in this particular region, having this kind of TEE, this kind of software version, and running on this kind of cloud, then all of those will be taken into account. And now suddenly your TEE that goes from like, oh, someone's going to like probe it with this like scanning electron microscope goes to like pretty much zero because you are in complete control of who's actually running your software. So it actually treats TEE more like it's the technology that it is, right? It's not really meant for these zero trust environments, but like we have people like Oasis Network working super hard on making that possible. But Enshrine's it goes in a different direction. All right, next slide, please. And then other things that we're building in are that improve the UX that are actually more departures from Parcel are task-based execution, meaning that this is just an extension of like the idea of Web 4. It doesn't really matter how you get the tasks or like what the task is or like who you are running the task. It just matters if you can get the key and you can satisfy the state update policy, then you can do whatever you want. So instead of being very prescriptive and saying, you there, do you do this task, this job, or doing like dispatch and other sorts of complicated stuff on chain, you do basically nothing on chain. You just use the on chain for like recording the most recent state of the world, and that's very consistent with what what Oasis is doing alongside Opal and the key management. Next slide, please. Right, and then you can see some simple code here. So instead of doing dispatch and like storing events, emitting events, big off-chain infrastructure, high gas fees, it's just like, do you have some task results for me? Sure, I'll take them. And then this doesn't even have to do anything. This can just say, I'll take them, reject them. You can pay for it, you don't have to pay for it. You can do a zero knowledge proof. But like this is the pith of on-chain task management and autonomous computing. So you have the autonomous smart contract driving the autonomous layer 2 compute. Next slide, please. And then, of course, getting back to like how this is actually possible, it's key and task policy. So the key policy says who can actually have the key. And if you can't have the key, then you're done. If you can get the key, say that you're one of these TEEs having like these trust properties that I just talked about, like these trust resources, you satisfy all of those, you get the key. You start to run the computation. But if you do the computation wrong or something like that, there's still the task policy that says, can you actually submit the results? And then this can be some more update logic that says like only accept results during the context of like a valid user request or something like that. But it affects how you can do state updates on chain. So you have the who can have the key, who can have the state who can do the state updates. And that's all the on-chain interface is. All of the magic happens off-chain. Next slide, please. And then getting back to this diagram that you should now understand better. First, you get the key and first you detect tasks, get the policies, the orchestrator, the platform will invoke a runner. The runner will do all of the work necessary to prove that it can access the keys. So you'll give out the credentials, get the key back from Oasis. Then it will start running the task. The task will complete. It will submit the work back to the centralized ledger, which may or may not be Oasis, especially not if you're using Oasis privacy layer. So by now you should understand this diagram, but if not, that's okay. You'll see it again later. Next slide, please. And then this is just a slide about how you can get involved. I won't say all the links for you, but it's an open, Enshrine is an open network that you should contribute to if you feel like you want to expand the possibilities of like AI, blockchain, and autonomous computing and autonomous AI. But really, this is just an exciting use case for the Oasis network, and Oasis has always been AI first. This is just the continuation of that vision. I'm really excited to be continuing working on it with the excellent Oasis team. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for this great presentation. And if not yet, yeah, you all should get your trout. Cool. Now we finish with a Q&A session. Let me check for any questions that were submitted during the presentations. Okay, first one. What is the minimum number of Rose tokens one can stake, and what is the time frame? Okay, this is a simple one. So the minimum number is 100 rows, and the time frame is whatever you want it to be. I guess the only thing is that there's a debonding period if you want to unstake, which is approximately 14 days that you have to wait before you can get them back with some additional rewards. Okay, hopefully this answers the question. Okay, next one. How would Oasis bring back the NFT ecosystem as it once was? Maybe Peter, you can try to answer this one.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Jernej. Yeah, I think that I think this goes along well with what both myself and C and Nick have been talking about with what with Sapphire and OPL kind of open up with respect to NFTs. With on-chain privacy enabled with by Sapphire, we can add unique features to NFTs, unlockables, private attributes, like we saw with NF Trout. And yeah, I mean, I think we see a huge potential for innovation here, and are really excited to see what builders do with NFTs on Sapphire and OPL.
Cool, thanks. Okay, let's see. Okay, this one is interesting. Is there a way to secure a secret using Sapphire such that compromising one key manager node will not reveal the secret? That's a good question. So actually, something that we are exploring is that given our unique architecture, it's possible to leverage a threshold secret sharing scheme to distribute key shares among the multiple Sapphire compute nodes, which are obviously running the runtimes inside TEs. So in that case, even if one of them is compromised, which would mean actually one would need to break the TE, the secret would not be able to be reconstructed, as it would require a threshold of nodes being compromised. Obviously, something like this would be slightly more expensive in terms of gas and latency, but otherwise it is something that is possible given our architecture, where we can basically all the building blocks are there. We have the committees of the runtimes, so adding threshold secret sharing scheme should be relatively straightforward for such use cases, which require maybe some higher assurances. Cool. Hopefully this answered the question. Next one. Let's see. Okay. If a project starts with Emerald, can it move to Sapphire, or will it stay on Emerald and use OPL? Maybe Peter, can you take this one as well?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is probably something that that developers might be thinking about now that Sapphire is live on mainnet and working well and stable. So yeah, I think this is an important kind of guidance that that Oasis can try to help developers work through. And so from my perspective, I think that for many projects, the right choice will be now to start building on Sapphire rather than Emerald. And so I think in the earlier days of Sapphire, I think we had a slogan that we liked to that we the mission was that Sapphire should have no reason not to use it, right? So I think we've done a pretty good job of achieving that. So with Sapphire, you have the same low gas fees and high performance as Emerald, as well as this added benefit of being able to utilize privacy where it's needed. And so for many applications, there's really no reason not to deploy it on Sapphire. In terms of taking an application that's already deployed to Emerald and moving it to Sapphire, Emerald and Sapphire are essentially two different chains, and so you would face the same kind of issues and challenges that you would face when migrating between any two EVM chains. And so that obviously is not something that in general is very easy to do. And so I personally would encourage new applications that are starting to build on Oasis now to really consider building natively on Sapphire, or if you're a cross-chain application using OPL.
Cool, thank you. Let's see, next one. What is Oasis Safe? So I think this was maybe briefly answered in the presentation, but basically it's a deployment of Safe. Like previously it was known as the Gnosis Safe, which is basically a multi-sig wallet that you can use for various things to basically shard the keys and then perform actions as by this multi-sig to require like multiple authorizations and so on to perform transactions. And that is now live on Sapphire mainnet. Cool. Next one, will there be a possibility of buying rows directly through the wallet? Yes, so this is something that we plan to enable in the official Oasis wallet in the coming weeks. This will be through our partnership with Transact. Cool. Okay, next one. How are you going to incentivize validators, delegators once the staking rewards dry up? It's getting less and less compelling to secure the network from a rewards point. Maybe Peter, you can answer this one as well.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, happy to kind of give some thoughts on this. I know, Jernej, this is something that we've been discussing among the Oasis team, and we think that in the future this will be an important issue that the network community is going to need to address. And so I can kind of give just a summary of what some of the thoughts that the Oasis team has had so far on this issue and ways paths forward. And so I guess first there are a number of changes that could be made to the protocol and network parameters to help address the issue. And so first, as staking rewards taper off and the network goes on to rely more on transaction fees, the protocol could be changed to share transaction fees among both validators and delegators. And so, this is a change that could be made to the protocol if network governance decides to adopt such a change. another kind of tool that could be used is that currently the common pool, which is the special account on the ledger that holds the tokens that are used to pay out staking rewards. The common pool was initially allocated with an amount that was, based on I think a conservative estimate of how many staking rewards would be paid out over the lifetime of the staking reward schedule. At this point, it's looking like we project that at the end of the current staking reward schedule, there will be a significant amount of tokens remaining in the common pool when the current schedule ends. And so staking rewards, like most things on the network, are subject to being changed by network governance. And so in this case, the community could decide to alter the staking reward schedule and extend staking rewards using the remaining balance in the common pool. And so again, this is something that I think a conversation that we'll hope to see in the network community and the node operator and validator community in order to kind of address this concern. I think it's something that will that we'll see being discussed in the community in coming months.
Cool, thank you. Let's see. Is there a solution for the lack of longevity of projects in Oasis? Nothing new and all old projects built on Oasis are dead. Maybe Matej from our PD team can answer this one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks. That's always, speaking about the project ecosystem. If we look back, Emerald started at the end of 2021 when we were at the peak of the market. And then basically about 2022, the prices went down. Some of the funding dried up for projects, and we can understand that some projects weren't able to self-sufficiently to pull through. Also, there was quite a bit of a competition between the compatible chains, with the low cost transaction speed features that were quite similar to. So I would say that now Sapphire, I think the distinction and the unique that it brings, that the new application on Sapphire will be long-term. It also the whole EVM ecosystem. We are not particularly isolated to our chain. So I believe we'll get a lot more applications being built now. We also need to understand that Sapphire is very, very big as well, right? It went on in Q1, and it takes for projects to deploy. We are speaking to a lot of them. There were some issues at the beginning because the private features are slightly different, but I believe in the next few weeks, months, we're going to see a lot more projects deploying on Sapphire and get interesting.
Cool. Thanks, Matej. Let's see. Next one. Okay. Due to the competitive nature of the industry, how prepared is Oasis to scale through, and do they have the financial resources to achieve their aim? Right, I can answer this one. So basically, speaking for the Oasis Foundation, we have many years of runway. So as far as the financial resources go, we should be good. And we also have an amazing team. And I think having a great team is the most important asset a project can have. And obviously, we know how to build cool stuff, but also we need to find and support really good use cases so that that can leverage our technology. And I think this is crucial in our plan forward. So yeah, I think we're in a good position to take on any competitors. We have unique features with support for privacy and many things that can be built on top that others cannot do. So yeah, I think this is there are great things ahead. Hopefully this answers the question. Cool. Can you provide an overview of the key features and advantages of the Oasis network compared to other blockchain platforms? Oh, I guess this one is related. Maybe, yeah, Peter and Nick, maybe, yeah, you can answer this one.
Yeah, you know, I can give my perspective. I think, you know, I think one, you know, really unique feature that we've talked a good bit about today is the fact that it's, you know, with Sapphire we have the first actually confidential EVM running on chain, which is a really huge accomplishment, and you know, I think something that we think will unlock a lot of new kinds of applications that can't be built anywhere else. And yeah, I'd be curious, maybe hopefully Nick, not to put you on the spot too much, but maybe to speak a little bit as someone who's, you know, now building on the Oasis network, like what, you know, what are the important unique characteristics of Oasis network that are important for, you know, building your solution, and you know, why are you building it on the Oasis network rather than, you know, some other platform?
Well, I'll tell you. So actually the Enshrine architecture is not supposed to be dependent on any one key management solution, because of course that was something that happened during like the Parcel days, right? People would complain like, oh, your thing's not my preferred secret management thing. But the thing is, Oasis does have the most convenient way of doing secret management, decentralized secret management right now. So like, for instance, close competitors in this universal key management space include like Lit Network, and Lit Network is still in very much beta. Like Sapphire is on mainnet, it's like stable, you can do distributed key generation. So it's most featureful, most secure, and most convenient key management environment by far for now. So I mean, like, I do plan on supporting others for in the future. So like, I'm not making like a religious decision here to choose Oasis. It's because it's actually the most mature secret management product in Web3 right now.
Thank you, Peter and Nick. Yeah, I think those are great answers. Cool. Let's see. Okay. Can you say something more about Oasis collaboration with Router Protocol and what we can expect out of it? Maybe Matej, can you speak to this one?
Yeah, sure, Janez. So the router protocol, maybe it's similar to SibBridge's one, where we're expecting it through the different bridging technologies enable any EVM chain to utilize the privacy features Sapphire offers on native chains, you know, without all their users, all their funds to Sapphire. We obviously encourage native deployments for the more privacy heavy applications, but we all understand that not every application needs you know, all of the features to be private, and maybe just certain aspects. So what these collections bring is basically they open up the addressable market for the privacy features for our network, and any partnership like this brings enhances the basically the potential user base and the potential apps that can utilize the privacy.
Thank you, Matej. Yeah, and I think this is it for today. So thank you everyone for participating in our town hall, and until next time, get some trouts.